listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. Whether it's for food, fuel, drinks, or snacks, about half the U.S. population shops at a convenience store every day. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
You know, customers like myself, we have our favorite retail outlets, whether it's your favorite pair of jeans or where you go to get your favorite chicken sandwich, whatever your favorite thing is. You go there because you trust that whatever they're offering, whether it's new or something you can rely on, will be the thing that you expect it to be, the same quality, and you know you can rely on that particular retailer. You know, with the increasing number of fuel offerings and renewable fuel blending options, customers want to know that if they're going to try this out with you, that, you know what, you understand what's happening. If you're going to blend, market, and distribute that renewable fuel, that you understand it, the liabilities, challenges, and they don't even have to think about it. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about those challenges, liabilities, incentives, and most importantly, how to continue being that place for your current and future customers to trust and rely. Welcome to Convenience Matters. My name is Donovan Woods with the Fuels Institute, and I'm joined today by my co-host.
My name is John Eichberger with the Fuels Institute and NACS. Hey, Donovan, how you doing, man?
I am good. I'm excited about our guest today, someone we've known for a while, John. Actually, for you, the audience, we're joined today by Jeff Hoving. He's the VP with NATSO's Alternative Fuels Council. And if you don't know Jeff, he's an alternative fuels expert who spent probably over 20 years in the petroleum industry educating and assisting marketers and renewable fuel blenders on all things related to blending, marketing, and distributing alternative fuels. And, you know, actually, he's been an asset to us here at the Fuels Institute pretty much since our inception, if you think about it, John.
Yeah, he has. He's always been somebody we can always rely on. He has one detriment. He's from Iowa. But you know what? We can overlook that, and we may need to interpret some of the things he says today, but that'll be all right.
Well, with that introduction, how are you, Jeff? Thank you for doing this for us, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks. Calling in from the war-torn zone of Iowa. So yeah, this is great.
Well, I know there's a lot of happening things in Iowa, so I don't want to keep you too long. I'll get back to this subject. But Jeff, when I look at your LinkedIn profile and knowing you the past 6 years, you have the great tone of voice, your manner, you're very calm. You could have almost been a teacher. So I'm always wondering, why did you particularly go into this side of the industry when it comes to alternative fuels, and especially the part about you love educating and helping people understand how to better themselves in their business?
That's a great question. I think that when I just kind of naturally migrated into the petroleum industry a long time ago, and the minute I did, the first thing I recognized was the sheer volume of regulations and requirements that this industry is faced with. So whether it's environmental cleanup requirements or whether it's a fuel quality requirement, it's a very very regulated industry, and it didn't make much sense. So obviously I just wanted to dig in and sort through it. And try to, a lot like what the Fuels Institute does. I want to put it in a manner that it's understandable, and people can, they can get back to running their businesses, knowing that people like us are watching these other moving parts of their industry.
So a lot of our listeners may know who NATSO is, representing truck stop and travel plaza centers of the country. What is the Alternative Fuel Council? What you guys started that a couple years ago, but what is it? What are you guys trying to do?
So what we're trying to do, it's really at the core of the Alternative Fuel Council is the EPA's renewable fuel standard. And as most of the listeners know, that the renewable fuel standard requires renewable fuel blenders, our industry, bringing the renewable fuels into transportation fuel. And with that comes this opportunity, and that's the RIN credit, or hopefully coming up here, that's also going to be the blender's tax credit with the IRS. And we saw this huge discrepancy between very, very large companies that had a lot of bandwidth to handle all these compliance issues versus the smaller group that felt like they really couldn't tackle it. It was too big of a beast to get involved in. So our goal is just to make sure that everybody feels included. Everybody feels like they can do this if they want to. And as time has progressed, since 2007, it's gone from, the RIN credit has gone from a profit center to almost a necessity to compete in our market, because we live in such a cutthroat market. So we want to make sure that everybody's on a level playing field. And so we build out software, we do all of the EPA reporting and the registering. And throughout the years, I've made a lot of great relationships with renewable fuel producers. We're working on a couple of transload facilities right now on logistics and things like that to move product around the country. But it's really to make sure, even if you're a small marketer or travel center, that you feel like you can be involved and take advantage.
Makes sense. And you mentioned you try to educate people. I'm sure education also may say you don't want to go that route. How do you really, if you're a business owner, know if this is the right thing for you to go into that side in terms of alternative fuels? What decisions do you have to make? What's happening to make them make one way or the other?
Yeah, I think the very first thing we do when we sit down with somebody who's asking those questions of themselves is, okay, let's put pencil to paper. Let's look at the economics. Let's go out and get some bids on product, and then look at the incentives that are involved. So, for example, if you're in Texas or in Iowa or Illinois, there are other state incentives. And so we look at all of those and we crunch the numbers and say, okay, this is where your margin becomes more favorable. Or in some cases, it's a wash, and maybe this isn't something that is good for you. So we look at the economics first. And then secondly, we look at what's the available supply in your region. The Northeast has always really struggled. And the Midwest is heavy with biofuels. A lot of those biofuels are going to the West Coast and California into the LCFS markets. So we look at, is it even available then? And then thirdly, it's, how do we blend? How do we store it? How do we blend it? How do we sell it? And that's the kind of the final end of it. And then of course, my job is to make sure that we're maintaining compliance and we're doing all the reporting, auditing, and then marketing the RINs. If somebody wants me to market the RINs, I can do that. So it's kind of a multi-step process. And if you say no to any one of those, then, you want to take a step back and say, maybe this isn't right for me. But at the end of the day, the folks that are calling me are saying, I'm just having a heck of a time competing with, people in my area. And we look to see what the other people are doing, and they're blending biofuels. So they're accessing something that others don't seem to be accessing.
So it sounds like when you're looking at this, it's really a business strategy. Is there any concern or any experience in terms of consumer acceptance? Has it been transparent? Do the consumers care? Do they seek out the biofuel blends? What's that interaction with the consumer like?
Oh, I think, anybody who's pulled up to a dispenser recently, and you look at this dispenser with all the labels on it and all the hoses, and you want the consumer experience to be as simple as possible, and it's not simple anymore. Just filling up your tank of gas or your diesel. So the messaging there, I think, is very important, because we're not getting more simple; we're getting more complicated. And so that's a hurdle, and that's an existing problem today. As far as the actual fuel quality and getting over the road truckers to use it, biodiesel we're talking about here. You want, I believe it's becoming more and more accepted. We got 5% in virtually every gallon out there in the country today, but we're pushing up to B20. And we're going to see that in 2020. So we got a lot of room to grow there. It's important for the retailer to know what they're selling and when they're selling it, especially with biodiesel. If you're getting into the colder months and you're in the northern part of the states, you probably want to dial that blend down, so that you don't have, the old school bus up with Minnesota filled with kids in the middle of January, stuck in the middle of nowhere because we fouled out the engine. Because that we still talk about that. We still talk about that example. And that was probably 7 years ago, 8 years ago that happened.
Bad news never goes away.
No,
good
it
news
does not.
Quickly goes away, but bad news will stick, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is with that kind of example, Jeff, is, and Donovan, you're right, those things always sit out there like an albatross, but there are ways to manage those things. You can offer these fuels and offer them year round, but you're right. You may need to dial down your blend rate a little bit in the colder months, and then you can bring it back up when it starts warming up. But there's strategies. There's always a way around these challenges. It's important to understand the risks and the challenges so you can develop a strategy to make sure that you're delivering a quality product to your customers that they can rely upon.
I think about that, though, this morning, John. We walk into the studio here that we record our podcast, and it changed to us overnight. Went from one room to another room, and it's all new cool things. I mean, we have probably 7 cameras in here, 4 different setups, which is completely different than it was just a month ago. And he wasn't. Yeah, we recorded what he said. We'll share that in the.
I don't like change.
Yeah. But I get excited about it. I'm always about, that's so cool. But there's a low risk to this not working or working. What is a risk for someone kind of jumping in and not all the checks and balances aren't there? What could happen? You don't have to go into specifics or specific examples, but how risky is this to do this and not do it right?
I think there's some very simple best practices that we can employ when we're new to this. And again, I'll stick with biodiesel. And so we wrote a biodiesel fuel quality guidance document, and a lot of the language in there resembles the same language as how we're treating and handling our diesel tanks, our underground storage diesel tanks. We're looking for water, we're looking for sediment. Before you introduce biodiesel at a higher concentration, clean your tank out. Just take a moment. And I know it's a pain, and I know you got a little bit of downtime, but you need to get all that sediment out of your tank. Otherwise, that biodiesel is going to come through and it's going to push it right into your filter, if you've got a filter, wink, wink, or right into your customer's vehicle, and they'll be held to pay. So, just that simple, aspect of it. But otherwise, I mean, I've got story after story of success situations where people have never handled biodiesel before, and they jump into it. Yeah, we have to cross the T's and dot the I's with the regulators and, with the IRS, but we do all that up front. And you make sure that you're getting a good biodiesel, a good quality biodiesel that's either BQ 9000 or at very minimum, it meets ASTM 6751. And just pay attention as to who you're buying from. And a lot of those problems just don't even exist. So,
in terms of the incentives, so you mentioned when you do the economic analysis, you look at what are the incentives, what are the RINs. At what point can a marketer expect that the biofuel blend they're selling will be profitable on its own merit? My background's in the policy, and policies come and go. The blender's tax credit is renewed, then it's held off, then it's renewed, then it's held off, and it's completely inconsistent and almost unpredictable what's going to happen. How much confidence can a marketer have that if they move into a biofuel blend, that they're going to be able to make money even if the incentives go away? There's a couple. Number one, for biodiesel, it's completely reliant on incentives. Mm-hmm. Unlike ethanol. Ethanol, as an oxygenate, it really has its own place in this world. So probably the biggest factor there is, I don't look at it, is the price of biodiesel going to come down? I look at it as the price of ULSD going to go up, like IMO situations. Are we going to see price spikes in ULSD?
Are we going to see price spikes in heating oil in the Northeast? To do what you're suggesting, John, to make those economics, pair up more equally. But I don't see, if the blenders, it looks like the blender's tax credit, if it gets, will go to 2020, 2022. And, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge deal. There's going to be nobody in any hurry to try to lower the cost of the biodiesel. So, ethanol. There are a number of things going on with renewable fuel producers right now, as you start to see more low carbon fuel type standards coming out. But that's mostly at the production level, trying to reduce the carbon intensity of the fuel. And in a lot of cases, that should bring the price down, right? Mm-hmm. They're trying to become more efficient in their production, and that should really bring the price down.
And we are seeing these low carbon intensity programs spread. There's the Midwest Governors Coalition trying to do it, New England trying to do it. Depending on what happens in November 2020, there could be a federal push for carbon reduction. So that's really a great opportunity for the biofuels market to really lock in and plant roots, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's kind of what the message I'm trying to get out there to those regions is: be prepared, get ready for it, get your feet wet right now. 2020 is starting to look like it's going to be a good year for that. So if you've never done it before, now is a good time to start getting your feet wet, because I don't see these low carbon fuel policies going away anytime soon.
I agree. I think they're only going to get more intense, if anything.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, with the idea of someone going into this side of the industry or expanding in this side, with EVs, for example, we always have the caution of don't just go start installing charging stations if you don't have the customers to come. That's always a question for a fuel retailer. But with this, how does someone know this is a market they should jump into?
Yeah, I think from the travel center side of things, the truck stops, you've got your known customer base, and you're really trying to hit that price point, that price at the curb that makes you competitive. And it's kind of, I don't want to say no brainer, right? Because there are a lot of things that go into that, but it's really going to become more and more necessary, to be involved with biodiesel. On the ethanol side of things, where we're talking about maybe E15, or even the branded locations that currently aren't allowed to blend their own ethanol. We're seeing some folks move to unbranded so that they can be the blender on record with the ethanol and take advantage of that. Lots of things to talk about there. Then you're getting into supply agreements and branding supply agreements and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, when you run the calculations and you see the price differential, it's really kind of a tell-all. It really is. It's
I think, Donovan, from the consumer perspective, every vehicle can run an E10, mm-hmm. and they already are. I think EPA has approved like 90% of the vehicles on the road run an E15. On biodiesel, I think everything's approved. B5 is basically straight run diesel. I'm not aware of any major restrictions on up to B11 or anything like that. There's some restrictions in vehicle manufacturers for B20, but those are starting to be removed as well, isn't it? Isn't that right?
That's correct. I think you're seeing wide acceptance of up to B20. Just beginning January 1st, for example, in California, the California Air Resource Board is now designating B20 as substantially similar to straight diesel fuel. Wow. From an equipment compatibility standpoint. And
just for clarity, Jeff, that's January 2020?
Yes.
Yes, January 1, 2020.
Gotcha.
So that's coming up, and that's going to be a big push. Although we got a lot of renewable diesel trying to find a home in California for other reasons that we haven't really talked about, but But yeah, that's going to be a big game changer for the marketers out in California.
So, I mean, the real reason for that question, Donovan, was there's really no restrictions on being able to sell these to your customers.
So your customer doesn't have to learn how to do something different.
They don't have to learn anything new. They don't have to really think about it. They're going to get a product that is suitable for their vehicle for a lower price.
And that's important.
And that's key. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, Jeff, you did mention the one document as we wrap up here, the Fuel Quality Plan Biodiesel Blends 2018. If someone had questions, wanted to get this document downloaded, where can they find out more information about the Alternative Fuels Council?
Sure. So our website is www.natsoaltfuels.com. And, if anybody's, my contact information is on there, my email, my phone. I'm available virtually 24/7. So I might take Christmas off. We'll see.
Really? Come on, you're in Iowa, man. You guys work all the time.
Yeah.
Hardest working Americans.
Time moves a little slower out there. I like that.
Yeah. That's
well, thank you, Jeff. We appreciate you making time for us this morning. I'm sure our listeners will appreciate it as well. Thank you, John, for being here, and thank you for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.